Hey everyone, how are you doing? I have my good friend Andy here with me. Thanks for coming on and helping me.
You are most welcome.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Anytime, mate.
We are tonight to check out a lot of Iron Maiden. Yeah. We're both quite Iron Maiden fans.
Massive.
We've seen I've seen them twice.
Yeah, I've seen Somewhere on Tour.
Yeah.
And then Seventh Son. And then Legacy of the Beast. So you've seen them 3 times.
You've seen them 3 times. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I hope we're all good. Hello, let's see. Jack, Grandpa Joe, Esther, hey, Patrick Becker, hi, Dennis, great to see you, J.E. Love you, bro, and thanks for driving all around Germany. Leo, who's that? Oh, Vico. Yeah, I'm amazing. Now we're talking your Papa Blue, Sean Hockey, and Pete Brown. But what we're going to do is we are going to start with the bios. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. If I can find it. There we go.
Love me some Maiden, says Pete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Born David Michael Murray on the 23rd of December in Edmonton, London, is an English guitarist and songwriter. Dave is best known as one of the original members of the Iron Maiden. He joined the band just 2 months after their inception in 1975. As a boy, Murray was a fanatical football player and fan as well as a keen cricketer. But his family was poor, his father was disabled and his mother worked part-time as a cleaner, and the family never settled anywhere long enough for Murray to establish himself in any of the school's teams he could have played for. By his reckoning, he had been to a dozen different schools by the time he left for good at the age of 16. Murray developed an interest in rock music when he was 15 after hearing Voodoo Child, Slight Return by Jimi Hendrix on the radio. He got his first guitar, and being such a keen guitarist, he would practice up to 7 hours a day. He formed his first band, a trio called Stone Free. This band also included Adrian Smith, guitar, vocals, who would later become a member of Iron Maiden. From there, Murray had played with a number of different bands before meeting Steve Harris and joining Iron Maiden for the first time in 1976. He briefly left the band following an argument with then vocalist Dennis Wilcock. Murray rejoined Smith in a band called Urchin. During this short tenure with the band, he recorded one single titled She's a Roller. Following the single, Murray left Urchin and returned to Iron Maiden as Wilcock had left the band during Murray's hiatus. Murray's guitar style throughout his career has been mainly of the legato-based solo variety. This can be seen in songs from their first self-titled album, such as Phantom of the Opera, to the watery solo from Lightning Strikes Twice, to songs from their 2006 release A Matter of Life and Death, such as its lead single The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. Murray's sound and style can be distinguished from Janik's and Adrian Smith's style, mostly because of his frequent use of the neck pickup. Murray is noted for having naturally strong fingers and frequently using hammer-ons and pull-offs. Murray has also written for the band, though less often than other band members. Usually leaving lyrics to someone else, he occasionally co-writes songs, with Charlotte the Harlot being his sole composition released. Murray and Harris are the only members of Iron Maiden to have appeared on every one of the band's albums. In his spare time, Murray is an avid golfer, as seen in the Rock in Rio DVD. Murray and his wife Tamer have one daughter named Tasha. Adrian Smith, born Adrian Frederick Smith on the 27th of February 1957, is an English guitarist. He is one of 3 guitarists for Iron Maiden. He is one of the main songwriters in Iron Maiden. He also sings backing vocals on some songs, along with Steve Harris. While at school, Adrian befriended Dave Murray and formed his first band Urchin as lead singer and lead guitarist. Adrian had bought his first guitar from Murray, a Woolworths Top 20, for £5. Later he painted it gold and sold it again for £12, as he states in the early days DD. Murray left Urchin to join Iron Maiden, the new band of another local musician, Steve Harris. Smith continued to front Urchin, with limited success, until joining Maiden in late 1980 for the Killers album, released in 1981, replacing Dennis Stratton. Smith first wrote songs for Maiden on the 1982 album The Number of the Beast, and was the band's secondary songwriter from then on, often in co-operation with Bruce Dickinson. Smith and Dave Murray combined playing dual lead guitars, helping to forge the trademark sound of Iron Maiden. Some notable lead duets are 2 Minutes to Midnight, Alexander the Great, and Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Notable solos include Wasted Years, Stranger in a Strange Land, and The Wicker Man. Adrian's solos are usually composed rather than improvised. His legato playing is very smooth and fast, and typically even his very fast passages have a musical function and relationship to the chord structure behind the solo, drawing from modes and arpeggios, which are more often from blues licks. Smith released a solo LP with the band ASAP, Adrian Smith, and project titled Silver and Gold in 1989. Following its release, Smith departed from Iron Maiden in 1990 when recordings for the No Prayer for the Dying album were about to start, and was replaced by Jannik Juz. It is widely believed that Adrian left due to his unhappiness with the direction the band was taking. After releasing the experimental Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son albums, Steve Harris had decided to take the band back to a more traditional hard rock direction, which can clearly be heard on the No Prayer for the Dying album. This album featured one last song co-penned by Adrian with Bruce Dickinson, Hooks in You. Bruce Dickinson's comment on Adrian: "When he left the band in 1990, I think everybody was a bit surprised at how much we missed him, and certainly, I don't think anybody had realized how much the fans would miss him big time. I wouldn't have rejoined Iron Maiden if he wasn't in the band. I just don't think it would have been complete without Adrian, and now, it's great having 3 guitarists." In 1996, Adrian joined forces with former Helloween vocalist, Michael Kiske on Kiske's solo album Instant Clarity. He plays guitar on a few tracks and co-wrote a few songs. Later, Adrian formed his alternative rock-influenced band Psycho Motel. This band was a progression from an earlier music project of his, The Untouchables, which had featured some of the members from ASAP and Jamie Stewart, former bassist of the rock group The Cult. The band recorded 2 albums, State of Mind, 1996, and Welcome to the World, 1997. Smith would also play on Bruce Dickinson's Accident of Birth and the Chemical Wedding albums. The influence of this more progressive direction, as well as Adrian's heavier rhythm guitar playing, on Iron Maiden's own performances since he rejoined the band is clear. On the 22nd of August 1992, Smith made a brief appearance on stage with Maiden to play Running Free during the Castle Donington Monsters of Rock festival. In 1999, Smith rejoined Iron Maiden for the Ed Hunter Tour, a tour in support of the video game of the same name. Since then, Iron Maiden have released 6 studio albums: Brave New World in 2000, Dance of Death in 2003, A Matter of Life and Death in 2006, The Final Frontier in 2010, The Book of Souls in 2015, and Senjutsu in 2021. He remains with the band to this day. Jannik Juz, pronounced Yannick Juz, born January 27, 1957 in Hartlepool, England, is an English musician and one of 3 guitarists for Iron Maiden. He is one of the main songwriters for Iron Maiden. His father, Bolesław, was an officer of the Polish Navy. Juz was the lead guitarist of the band White Spirit before joining Gillan, a group formed by then former Deep Purple vocalist Ian Gillan. After Gillan disbanded, he joined Gog Magog, which included former Iron Maiden members vocalist Paul Di'Anno and drummer Clive Burr. Juz also performed with other artists including former Marillion vocalist Fish. In 1990, he played guitar on the first solo album of Iron Maiden vocalist Bruce Dickinson, Tattooed Millionaire. During the recording of the album, he was asked to join Iron Maiden in place of departing Adrian Smith. He has remained with the band ever since, even after Smith rejoined the band in 1999. Juz's playing style uses heavy distortion and is noted for having a very raw tone. He prefers alternate picking instead of playing legato using hammers and pull-offs. Juz is also left-handed, although he plays guitar right-handed, as seen at the Rock in Rio DVD signing autographs. Juz's main influences are Ritchie Blackmore, Jeff Beck, and Irish blues guitarist Rory Gallagher. He is noted for his energetic stage presence. He can often be seen bouncing up and down and occasionally does tricks with his guitar, such as spinning it around his body while playing, or throwing it into the air, catching it.
So there we go. The 3 Iron Maiden guitar players.
I learnt something from that. I didn't know that Dave Murray wrote Charlotte the Harlot.
Wow,
So,
there you go.
thank you. I
I
enjoyed it.
wish I had seen the piece of Minotaur.
Yeah.
Was quite right.
That would have been amazing.
Amazing. Hey, Quentin. He's here to see my Uber boy. Okay, so Andy is going to let you know what things we got coming up.
So, we've got a few videos, so we want you to let us know which one you want to see next. So we've got Behind the Band Name, Iron Maiden, headlining Wacken, Iron Maiden Kicks Off in Brazil, Maiden Albums Rated.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting one. Maiden to pay for Diano surgery, or as our AI guy said, Diano. Diano. And there's also a video on Smith Kotzen, if we get enough time.
Yeah. So let us know which one you want next. And the first person there will get it.
What's your favourite Maiden album, if you had to choose? Number of the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree. Absolute classic.
Definitely.
Still sounds amazing today.
It does. Really does. So let us know what you like to see next. And we'll have a chat about a few things. If I may with it.
I did. I've got this book which has got lots of things about the band and then some replica concert tickets and things. Maybe we'll get some bits out during the next video and then show some people.
Yeah, okay.
Guys, we need to know what you want to see.
Yeah, we do. Let us know. So, Behind the Name,
headline in Wacken, Iron Maiden Kicks Off in Brazil.
Yeah.
Maiden Albums Rated.
Oh, I see that one.
Yeah. Maiden to pay for Diano surgery or the Smith Kotzen.
Yeah, let us know. And we will go with it. So you saw them 3 times.
Yep.
And I've seen them twice.
Yep.
I had a really amazing time the first time round, but the second time I was really, really drunk.
Were you?
I can't remember it. Oh, hello, Wacken. Okay, Sean. You've got it.
Sean, so we're doing the Wacken video.
Here we go.
Iron Maiden confirmed to headline 2023 Wacken. British heavy metal legends Iron Maiden will headline next year's edition of Germany's Wacken Open Air Festival, set to take place from 2 to the 5th of August 2023. Other bands on the bill include Megadeth, Dropkick Murphys, Ginger, and Deicide. Wacken Open Air takes place annually in the village of Wacken, which has a population of just about 2,000. Despite this, up to 85,000 people now attend the event, which is 32 years old. The first Wacken Open Air event in 1990 drew less than 800 people, but it has since grown to become the biggest open air festival of its kind. Around 30% of festival goers travel from other countries, which over recent years has been growing in popularity. 200 bands performed at this year's Wacken Open Air, including headliner Slipknot, Powerwolf, and Judas Priest. During 2019 and 2020, the event was forced to take a break for 2 years due to coronavirus restrictions. Wacken normally does not announce the names of its headliners before tickets go on sale. However, the festival usually sells out within hours. The festival also doesn't sell VIP access or upgrades, and all purchases are for all the days without a single-day ticket option, something they did away with nearly 2 decades ago. Elsewhere in Iron Maiden, Derbyshire's Bloodstock Festival is holding a special art and photography exhibition in celebration of the legendary hard rock outfit this year. Illustrator Mark Wilkinson will be displaying a range of his impressive work for the British metal icons across the years. Maiden's official photographer, John McMurtry, will also have a wall of his spectacular imagery, with a dozen shots from the Legacy of the Beast tour and a Bruce Dickinson Trooper print, all authorized and approved by the band themselves. So far, the following artists have been confirmed for the 2023 edition of Wacken Open Air: Iron Maiden, Megadeth, the Dropkick Murphys, Wardruna, Ginger, Beartooth, Two Steps from Hell, Ensiferum, Deicide, Pentagram, Nervosa, Burning Witches.
Okay, so there we go.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Wacken next year.
Amazing.
That'd be great.
That would be amazing. Very good. I saw earlier that Maiden paying for full surgery is awesome. Really, really kind. I will play that one next for you.
What was that guitar show? Was it Olympia that we used to go to every year?
Yeah.
And they had so I was there one year, and on the Marshall stand, had the big Marshall stand. It was 1987 because I've got a signed picture from Jim Marshall, which is like in a frame at home on the wall. And suddenly Dave Murray and Nico Mcbrain appeared.
Wow.
And they were just hanging around the Marshall stand, and we were like having a chat. As you're like, what? Well, it's those guys. And then there was this kind of booth. I mean, I suppose a bit bigger than the bit we're in now, but not. And there was a drum kit in there, and there was different Marshall amps, and they locked about 30 of us in there, and it was Adrian Smith and Nico Mcbrain just jamming. Sorry, Dave Murray and Nico Mcbrain with this other bass player. Wow. And it was just one of those off-the-cuff things, not expecting, and like, do you want to go in and? Yes, please.
I bet.
And it was amazing. Wow. They were just jamming for about half an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how about I would love to see that. Let's see what people are saying. Here we go. I made once in the open. Wow. That would be a great concert. Genesis.
Leo.
There we go.
Maybe Leo Sayer. It's her first concert.
I am really great to see you. Anyway, from Open Maiden. Wow, I would love to see that. Oh, thank you, my friend, for wellness to you. And why not? Love you, brother. Love you too. Let me give you one of these. Thank you so much. Really, really kind. And very much appreciated. Never caught it. Let's see what else people are saying. Just people are saying hello. I think we'll do Paul Diano.
Yeah, Paul Diano. Yeah, them paying for his surgery.
Yeah, let's do that. If I can find it, there we go.
Arranged to cover former singer Paul Diano's medical expenses, bringing an 18-month fan fundraiser to an end. Diano previously reported he urgently needed knee surgery, which had since been scheduled for July 5th. The fundraiser began in January 2021 and had raised around $15,000, just over half the target, until organizers announced its closure. The development comes after Diano attended a Maiden concert in Croatia last month and reconnected with bassist Steve Harris. The wheelchair-bound singer had just played his first show in 6 years. He had been living in Croatia for some time, where friends helped with his daily needs. I am very excited to announce that the Iron Maiden team have kindly agreed to cover the remaining cost of Paul Di'Anio's operation, said Castro Pergioni, one of the organisers and owner of the Cart and Horses pub in London, where Maiden play their earliest shows. His Facebook post noted that not only are Iron Maiden the best band on this planet, they are kind-hearted and supported by an amazing team. As a result of this fantastic news, I will be closing the fundraising on June 21st. I would like to express my huge thanks to everyone that has donated. You all made a difference and made this happen for Paul. Pergioni said it had been a tremendous journey, with a never-ending list of supporters, noting the efforts of Di'Anio's daily assistant Sate Japan and Violetta Juras. I'd like to thank Paul for placing so much trust in me even though we've had our differences, he said. Sorry, Paul, all my decisions were based in the best interest for your health. The one thing I have learned from this experience is that the Maiden family is truly special and I pride myself in being a part of this. Speaking soon after he spent a short time with Harris and Maiden manager Rod Smallwood, Di'Anio said, "Last weekend was absolutely amazing. We actually hadn't met for a long time. And it was brilliant because I met up with Steve's sister Linda first, whom I hadn't seen in about 30 years. And then Steve was amazing, and then Rod as well. It's made my whole year, actually. It was fantastic. It was pretty awesome."
Hey, Papa Boo, very, very much on your way home now, and I hope you are feeling better, my friend, and you get better really soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, the Paul Di'Anio thing. I remember reading about it before the band and Rod Smallwood had come forward and said they'd pay for it. And it was before that. I remember reading about it. And yeah, Di'Anio was doing all these fundraisers and what his fans were. And it was like, I was thinking, why aren't Maiden paying for this? Because I know he's not in the band, but those first two albums are still brilliant. Yeah. People still, I mean, Di'Anio is some people's favourite. They'll go, oh, I only listened to the first two albums, you know. But he was a massive part of them, and they still play some of those songs now. So to me, it was just, I was questioning why they weren't getting involved. So it was really great to see that they've all kind of come together and, you know, they're going to cover it now.
Lovely to see. What do you think of the first two albums?
What do I think? I think they're great. It's funny because Steve Harris always says that the first one, what was the producer? Someone Maloney or something said if he'd just put his feet up on the desk, he'd have done a better job, you know. And he said the production's awful, but I think the production's really good, really raw. Yeah, I mean, there is a massive increase when Killers comes along, and you've got that bigger sound. But you know, there's a couple of instrumentals on Killers, I think, to pad it out a bit. But
what's the Killers? Martin Birch.
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
Absolutely. The Martin Birch periods, to me, were their best as soon as they stopped working. You know, there's a period with me, I think probably Seventh Son was my last true Maiden album. And then I didn't really listen to them until Book of Souls came out. And it was like, whoa, this is getting back on track. And then Senjutsu is just, I love it. Yeah. I love it. I think it's a fantastic, brilliant record. So,
in fact, I did a video a while back playing a bit faster.
I remember. I remember because people were talking about, but I think the production's got better now. There was that period, obviously the Blaze Bayley years, which people have got their own opinions on. And then you've got those years where they came back with Bruce and Adrian and A Matter of Life and Death and Dance of Death and stuff, which I didn't. Final Frontier, I bought all those albums and listened and wanted to love them. That was the thing. Really wanted to love them and didn't. And then when Book of Souls came out, it was like, oh, this was a bit. It was like, oh no. And they're bigger now. A lot of people don't know. They're bigger now than they used to be in their heyday when we were kind of seeing them. They're absolutely huge. So.
They're massive. And they put in audiences all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, there's stadiums. They don't play arenas. It's stadiums in all parts of the world and sometimes 2 or 3 nights at the same stadium. It's incredible.
Amazing. Hey, Dennis. Good to see you. Took my wife to Robson and told her 82. Wow. Hey, Matt. How are you? Thanks for helping me last,
Matt. Hello, Matt.
2 weeks ago. You're massive, fabulous, where's Vivian?
This one's quite... Always hoped I'd grow to like X Factor and Virtual X. X Factor was a grower. X is irretrievable. Well, everyone has their own opinions, but I didn't like the Blaze stuff myself.
I didn't mind it, but I stopped watching Maiden about 7th Sound.
Yeah.
And got back into it.
Pretty much like me.
Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny though. So they do the track on the Legacy of the Beast tour, and Bruce apparently chose like the songs for that. The theatrical. He was the main, and he included the Klansman, which has gone down brilliantly with him singing it. But that's a Blaze song. I don't know if he wrote it. I don't think he wrote it. But Blaze originally sung that song, and they brought that into the live show, and it goes down really well.
That's right. Steve Harris tried to get Bruce got to put on his own album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Bring Your Daughter to Slaughter, wasn't it? Yeah. Only time they went to number one and they knocked Cliff Richard off. They knocked Mistletoe and Wine off the number one spot. Legends.
Busy with 5-1. You read that for me. Happy Labor Day.
Sunday salutations to Mike and the CGS community tuned in now. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I am with you one of these. Thank you so much, Richard. 5-1, I really appreciate it. Matt says, Power Slave.
Interesting.
We'll see later what comes up as the best album.
Got some classics on Power Slave though, hasn't it? 2 Minutes to Midnight, Aces High. That's what it opens with, you know. And it's like,
I love Power Slave.
And Rhyming the Ancient Mariners on that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of their better epic tracks of that period.
Hey, give me soda. Great to see you. Shall we?
We need another video, don't we?
Yeah.
What have we got? Which one? Let's get that one in the bin. So we've got behind the band name Iron Maiden, and it's not Margaret Thatcher. People think it was.
Yeah.
Then we've got Maiden albums rated. Maiden kicks off in Brazil. I've got no idea what that one's about. That's interesting. So next one that we see in the comments, we will play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Behind the name. There we go. Grumpy Mike.
There you go. Grumpy Mike. You've got it. Here we go.
East London in 1975, Iron Maiden is one of the pioneers of the new wave heavy metal. Though fluid in the early years of the band, the enduring lineup consists of bassist Steve Harris, vocalist Bruce Dickinson, drummer Nico Mcbrain, and guitarists Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and Janik Jaz. The band's sprawling discography boasts 41 albums, 47 singles, and 20 video albums. Their third effort, The Number of the Beast, is one of the most popular heavy metal albums of all time, having sold almost 20 million copies worldwide. Elsewhere, their legacy has been cemented in video games, a horror-inspired mascot, and a number of bands who credit them as their primary influence. But how did the iconic group get its name? The name is often credited to bassist Steve Harris, who came up with Iron Maiden shortly after he left his previous group, Smiler. Harris was reportedly inspired by the film adaptation of Alexandre Dumas' The Man in the Iron Mask. The Leonardo DiCaprio-helmed movie centered around an unidentified prisoner in a metal mask, which in return reminded Harris of the medieval torture device, the Iron Maiden. Though there is no hard evidence that Iron Maiden was ever truly used, the device was essentially a standing sarcophagus with spikes lining the inside. When the victim was placed inside with the door closed, the spikes would pierce them, causing them to bleed out over a number of hours. Yikes. The band did cycle through some names before landing on their enduring moniker. Ash Mountain was almost their choice, though we're not sure anything could be more metal than Iron Maiden. Eddie is a perennial fixture in the band's science fiction and horror-influenced album cover art and live shows. Originally a papier-mâché mask incorporated in their backdrop which would squirt fake blood during their shows, the name got transferred to the character featured on their debut album cover, created by Derek Riggs. Eddie is also featured in the band's first-person shooter video game, Ed Hunter, as well as their mobile role-playing game Iron Maiden, Legacy of the Beast. In 2008, Eddie was awarded the Icon Award at the Metal Hammer Golden Gods, while Gibson describes him as the most recognizable metal icon in the world and one of the most versatile too. Many bands credit Iron Maiden as one of the biggest influences in metal. Kiss co-founder Paul Stanley noted that Iron Maiden has helped spawn an entire genre of music, while Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich told Guitar World that he always had an incredible amount of respect and admiration for them. Metallica guitarist Kirk Hammett has also sung the band's praises, saying that their song, Phantom of the Opera, played an important role in his development as a guitarist. A lot of guitar elements from that song can still be heard in his work with Metallica today. And it's not just metal bands that feel inspired by the outfit. Lady Gaga has also publicly stated her admiration for Iron Maiden's career, saying, "The devotion of the fans moving in unison, pumping their fists, watching the show, when I see that, I see the paradigm for my future and the relationship I want to have with my fans." Iron Maiden's never had a hit song, and they tour stadiums around the world, and their fans live, breathe and die for Maiden, and that is my dream.
There we go. So I have a question. I don't know if anyone on here knows the answer. So Maiden, let's talk about Eddie for a minute.
Yeah.
Because, it's synonymous with Maiden. The artwork has always been amazing. Derek Riggs did the artwork for all those years and then suddenly stopped. And I've tried to see why he stopped, and there doesn't seem to be, I've not been able to find out a kind of a definitive reason. And you think about it, the other thing is Iron Maiden t-shirts. I mean, I was going to wear one, but I wore one on the update, and I thought, guys, I think I only wear Iron Maiden t-shirts, but I have got a Bros one at home too, so that's fine. But the t-shirts, you go, when we went to Legacy of the Beast, before you get into the O2, there was about 12 different vans of official merchandise, and each one had about 6 queues of people, and I reckon 80% of the audience bought a t-shirt, and that comes from the album covers and the design. So it's such a big part of the band.
As it is here.
Yeah. And when they always comes out, it said in the video that, at the Cart and Horses that they used to play when the thing came up and spat out blood. And now they've got these huge blow-ups and things like that.
Head a fish tank.
Yeah, with some smoke and things like that. Amazing. But if anyone knows why they stopped using Derek Riggs, it just seems to be there's some secrecy around it, but I don't know. Before Maiden changed his name to Eddie. So Derek Riggs was already drawing this thing, and they saw it and went, "We want that," and they named it Eddie. I didn't know that, so thanks, Leah. Every bit as good as Entwistle or Leigh played, and that's not really easy to achieve. Absolutely.
Very good. Don't worry about my friend. It's part of the condition, and I've got my buddy here helping me. So I'm going to try and do live shows for as long as I can.
We'll make sure it happens, guys. Wasn't he called Heady since he was just a papier-mâché head? Heady rather than Eddie.
I'm not sure. I thought he was always called Eddie. Philadelphia, great to see you, mate. He might be coming over.
Cool.
I hope you are, my friend, because I would love to see you.
Eddie the Head. Yeah, I thought that was originally. Yeah, it was Eddie the Head, and then it morphed into Eddie. But they must have seen Derek Riggs, some of his pictures, and realised, oh, that's a perfect fit for what we need.
Artist.
Yeah.
He did the first, I think, up to Somewhere in Time.
Yeah, and maybe I forget what was after Somewhere in Time. That'll come up, but yeah, come on over, Sean.
Yeah, he's amazing. A very good friend of mine.
Cool.
Let's see. Just what I read in old Steve Harris.
That's just what I read in old Steve Harris interview.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, thank you, Papa. Really appreciate that, man. Fucking hard. And thank you both.
I'm not really doing much. Oh, you want to talk? So I brought this round for Mike. I found it. So I remember getting this from W.H. Smith's a few years back. It's supposed to be £30, and it was like on sale for $9.99.
Wow!
But it's this book, and it goes through various things with the band, and then you get these little bits where, and it shows you here.
Yeah.
So you've got all this kind of replica. Stuff like concert tickets and backstage passes and things like that. So if you can pick up this book still, over here, VIP things, passes. There's posters that they've recreated. This one's not a very good poster, but as an example, the Spartan Stadium, Y&T Amway did.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the Iron Maiden Vault by Chris Welch. He was a big writer from Kerrang, probably a name that a lot of you know. So yeah, it's a cool book. If you can get a copy,
amazing.
I'm leaving it here for Mike to peruse.
Oh, bless you. Also, there'll be tons of Derek artwork in there.
Yep.
And it says here, Derek Riggs' original illustration.
Derek Riggs' original illustration was called Electric Matthew before Maiden nicked it. Electric Matthew. Thank you, Leo.
That is amazing.
Electric Matthew.
Here, Derek felt he was being directed rather than having created input.
So they're saying that Derek stopped working for them rather than them not working with Derek. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing.
And do we know if Derek Riggs has done any other artwork for bands? Oh, am I just ruined a surprise in the video?
Yeah. I think we'll have a look.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Fit by. I love Fit by.
Yeah.
He was amazing bass player.
Yeah. You know, when I was on here talking about Project Soca, the band with Reg, and this Cam Glen radio that used to play us. The guy on the same show, they interviewed Pete Way. It was just about 6 months before he died. I mean, let's be honest, he was off his head, but it was a really, really interesting kind of interview. And he was talking, amazing
player.
A legend.
Yeah, Matthew itself.
It is.
The Wasted open for May.
Well, Summer in Time tour. Not when we were. I'm trying to think who opened. I mean, look, they have different opening bands for loads of different.
I remember who opened for May. It was Paul Sampson's Empire.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Paul Sampson's Empire.
I remember that very well. But I'm not surprised that in the States, it probably off wasted.
Yeah, absolutely. Same reason why Jim Fitzpatrick stopped working with Thin Lizzy, according to one story that I read.
Wow. Interesting.
So they wanted the creative and didn't get it. Electric Mark, Luke and John. Like that.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Killer Dwarfs for Seventh Son. I don't know if they were doing it at Hammersmith, but maybe.
I didn't see that. I bet they
Oh,
were
you weren't?
amazing.
Oh, it might have been killer dwarfs actually,
Yeah.
but they were just so small we couldn't see them, like Spinal Tap. They did Stonehenge, I think, and just danced around. No, they didn't. Of course they didn't.
Love it. Right. Let's.
The Electric Apostles, great band name.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Totally. Right. Let's see. What are we?
We've now got Iron Maiden kicks off in Brazil. Secretly, that's the one I'm looking forward to because I've got no idea what it's about. Maiden albums rated. Now that could kick off some comments.
Yeah.
And then the Smith-Kotzen. So
Yeah.
let's not have Smith-Kotzen yet because we don't know how long we're going to talk about. Maybe I think the Maiden albums rated might end up in some dialogue with the community here. So
see what? Who wants it? Who wants it?
12th of December, Brazil. Kicks off in Brazil, Sean Hockey. So we're going to find out what kicked off.
Here we go.
Maiden kicks off in Brazil. British heavy metal legends Iron Maiden kicked off their Brazilian tour Saturday night, August 27th at Pedreira Paulo Leminski in Curitiba. Fan-filmed video of the concert is available below. As has been the case on all the shows of the 2022 leg of Maiden's Legacy of the Beast World Tour so far, the band opened the set with Senjutsu, the title track of its latest studio album, and followed it up with 2 more songs from the same LP, Stratego, and The Writing on the Wall. Other tracks aired during Maiden's performance included Revelations, Blood Brothers, Sign of the Cross, Flight of Icarus, Fear of the Dark, Hallowed Be Thy Name, The Number of the Beast, and Iron Maiden. Maiden also played 2 encores, consisting of The Trooper, The Clansman, Run to the Hills, and the closing track of the night, Aces High. Prior to the Legacy of the Beast kick-off concert on May 22nd in Zagreb, Croatia, Iron Maiden hadn't performed live in 2.5 years, since the completion of its South American tour in October 2019. Earlier this year, Iron Maiden singer Bruce Dickinson confirmed that the band is planning to stage a tour where it will perform its new album, Senjutsu, in its entirety. The 63-year-old singer told the Talk is Jericho podcast, "The plan we've got, it's not really a secret, I think everybody else has chatted about it, we will, I hope, we've talked about doing the entire Senjutsu album start to finish, but not this time around. And we all appreciate that that is something that really die-hard fans will probably love and other people will go, I'm not gonna go see that." So the answer is you play smaller venues so that they sell out with just your die-hard fans. Cause it's a musical thing to do, it's a musical thing. Dickinson went on to clarify that the 2022 leg of Maiden's Legacy of the Beast tour, which is scheduled to hit North America in September and October, will once again focus primarily on a decade-spanning set list of fan favorites. The Legacy of the Beast tour, people have all paid their money to see the Legacy of the Beast show, with Spitfires and Flamethrowers and Icarus and everything that goes with, he said. So they are gonna get all that. But the first 3 tracks are probably gonna be the first 3 tracks on the Senjutsu album. The Writing on the Wall they already know, so everybody should know the first 3 tracks. And I just think the Senjutsu title track is just such a great opening song, so dramatic. And then once you've done that, and we'll have a stage set to go with it, once you've done that, you're back to the kind of legacy world at that point. But I think The Writing on the Wall is gonna be a great song, I mean, a crowd sing-along song. You can imagine that. It'll be fantastic. Addressing the fact that Maiden infuriated some fans by forcing them to sit through the band's then new, 75-minute A Matter of Life and Death album on tour in 2006, denying the crowd the greatest hits they'd come for, Bruce said, "Nobody has to buy a ticket. If you don't want to go see us play an entire new album live, you don't buy a ticket. It's gonna be plain as the nose on your face. This is gonna be what they are gonna do. So given that, don't complain that they did what they said they were gonna do." Clocking in at a hefty 82 minutes, Senjutsu came out in September. It marks Maiden's second consecutive double album behind 2015's The Book of Souls, which is the longest Maiden album, with a running time of 92 minutes. Iron Maiden's first album in 6 years, Senjutsu, was recorded in 2019 in Paris with long-standing producer Kevin Shirley and co-produced by bassist Steve Harris. It features 3 tracks whose running time exceeds 10 minutes each. For Senjutsu, loosely translated as Tactics and Strategy, the band once again enlisted the services of Mark Wilkinson to create the spectacular samurai-themed cover artwork, based on an idea by Harris. Senjutsu bowed at number 3 on the Billboard 200 chart, charting higher than even the band's early classics like Power Slave and The Number of the Beast. Nearly 90% of the LP's 64,000 equivalent album units earned came from pure album sales. The critically acclaimed double album debuted one place higher than 2015's The Book of Souls and 2010's The Final Frontier, which both peaked at number 4. Senjutsu was Maiden's 13th album to top in the top 40 in the US. According to Billboard, Senjutsu logged the second largest week of 2021 for a hard rock album in both equivalent album units earned and in traditional album sales. Senjutsu topped the charts in several European countries upon its release, including in Belgium, Finland, Germany, Italy, Sweden, and Switzerland.
Hey, who's the thing, mate?
Look, that was a great video, really interesting, but I feel a little bit disappointed and let down because it said kicks off in Brazil. I thought this was going to be from the past, something Bruce did or Nico did, some big story
it's
of.
all about Senjutsu.
Gotcha.
And they have played as a complete album.
Yeah, and they're going to play it in smaller venues, which would be great.
And they did that before with Virtual X.
Yeah, well, they have to play smaller venues.
Then working on parts.
Sorry, late working on parts cast. Great topic. I would definitely watch the replay of what I missed.
Thank you, brother. Awesome. And looking forward to seeing more. Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of videos left, haven't we?
Yeah.
Have we got a couple?
Let me see. We got 2. So
It's got to be. I'm going to call this one. It's got to be Maiden albums rated because
I can't believe that people haven't wanted to see it.
Yeah, they're probably like, yeah, but if my favourite one's not number 1, then so yeah, you know, it might not have kicked off in Brazil, but it might kick off after we watch this video in the comments.
Okay, let's do it. Here we go.
Maiden albums ranked. When ranking Iron Maiden albums, perhaps the most striking thing is that they succeeded despite changing lead singers on 3 separate occasions. 17, The X Factor, 1995. Blaze Bayley, on his first Iron Maiden album, tried in vain to fill the large shoes vacated by Bruce Dickinson. He got little help from band leader Steve Harris, who came up with a bunch of stubbornly overwrought tunes. What's more, longtime producer Martin Birch had just retired, forcing Harris to cope on his own. 16, Virtual 11, 1998. Marginally better than its predecessor, Virtual 11 avoided similar production doldrums but not the lack of songwriting inspiration. It also drew a blank with Americans, who missed the title soccer reference. Having said all that, Virtual 11 at least produced a classic-sounding Maiden epic in The Klansman. Bailey's departure, however, was inevitable. 15, No Prayer for the Dying, 1990. Iron Maiden's first album with guitarist Janikshas was a calculated effort to strip down the band's sound following the conceptual excesses of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. It ended up as a lazy, uninspired collection, devoid of long-term keepers except for Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, and Steve Harris had to twist Bruce Dickinson's arm to keep that off his solo record. 14, Dance of Death, 2003. Something of a come-down, Dance of Death followed the frenzied excitement awaiting Iron Maiden's reunion with Dickinson and guitarist Adrian Smith, 3 years earlier. But it was still an embarrassment of riches by any definition. Wildest Dreams and Rainmaker were a knockout 1-2 punch, and the bombastic Paskendale may well be their absolute finest hour of the third millennium. 13, The Final Frontier, 2010. Another reminder of Iron Maiden's staying power, The Final Frontier arrived an entire decade after their return to glory as a sextet. And it was quintessential Maiden, with hardly a song dipping below the 5-minute mark and several new age epics, Isle of Avalon, The Man Who Would Be King, etc. that were as grand as those classics from 2 decades before. 12, Fear of the Dark, 1992. Iron Maiden wrapped up the first Bruce Dickinson era with a bang, somehow managing to appease their increasingly demanding fans while trying out a few new tricks. The title track may have been vintage Maiden through and through, but Wasting Love was a bona fide ballad, and topical subjects largely replaced castle metal fantasy. 11. A Matter of Life and Death, 2006. Iron Maiden flirted with conceptual continuity, and their recurring themes of religion, war and, yes, life and death arguably made this the band's most consistent third millennium LP. So much so, that Iron Maiden was emboldened to perform the album in its entirety on their subsequent tour and, even more amazingly, they encountered precious little resistance from fans. 10. Brave New World, 2000. A musical omnibus, Brave New World evokes memories of those beloved 80s LPs while gazing ever forward, into the future. The returning Dickinson and Smith elevated Harris, Jazz and Murray to new heights during moments like the title track, which embraced promising days ahead, and Blood Brothers, which appropriately focused on the renewed bonds of past fellowship. 9. Somewhere in Time, 1986. Worn out after the record-breaking World Slavery Tour, Iron Maiden found it hard to match recent triumphs again. Steve Harris' songs were relatively dependable, but he tempted fans' wrath by experimenting with guitar synths, and Bruce Dickinson was a disappointing no-show on the songwriting front. Luckily, Adrian Smith stepped up with Wasted Years. 8. Book of Souls, 2015. Conceived in a whole new way, there's as much gumption here as in anything Iron Maiden has done. The results offer much to thrill die-hard fans, but just as much to challenge their preconceived notions. 7. Senjutsu, 2021. Traveling from South America to East Asia, while refining, and apparently perfecting, the approach taken on Book of Souls, Steve Harris seems to have fulfilled his ambition of turning Maiden into a no-holds-barred prog band, albeit with a taste for riffs and melodies that remain specifically theirs. Blue-collar Genesis, if you will, delivered with intricacy and a spirit of unity. The quick stings of a Stratego and Days of Future Past make clear they remember where they came from, while the limelight is clearly on Harris' epic closing trio, Death of the Celts, The Parchment and Hell on Earth. 6. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, 1988. The last LP from Iron Maiden's classic 80s lineup, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son was a progressive and conceptual tour de force, challenging listeners with cryptic musings on good and evil, as well as, gulp, synthesizers. Chief songwriters Harris, Dickinson, and Smith collaborated like never before, as if knowing they wouldn't have another opportunity for more than a decade. 5. Iron Maiden, 1980. This debut was slowed by production challenges and songwriting inconsistencies. But at their best, headbangers like Prowler and Iron Maiden, the intricate Phantom of the Opera, or the rousing Running Free, there's no doubting Iron Maiden's future renown. Besides, the LP's significance far outweighs any human flaws, as it became a bellwether for the new wave of British heavy metal. 4. Killers, 1981. Iron Maiden sold their first album Sonic Riddles with help from producer Martin Birch, who gave shape to Steve Harris' creative vision on favorites like Rothschild, Murders in the Rue Morgue, and the title track. Sadly, this also proved to be their last LP with Paul Di'Anno. He made way for Bruce Dickinson later that year, but not before earning a permanent spot in the hearts of many fans. 3. Peace of Mind, 1983. Iron Maiden consolidated their classic lineup, with the newly arrived Nico Mcbrain making an immediate impact on the blistering Where Eagles Dare, Dickinson proving his songwriting mettle on Revelations, and Harris delivering the goods, as usual, on The Trooper, Dune, and Flight of Icarus, in partnership with Adrian Smith. 2. Power Slave, 1984. No album epitomizes Iron Maiden at their peak quite like Power Slave, with its memorable Egyptian imagery courtesy of designer Derek Riggs. Highlights included heavy metal staples like Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, and the 13-minute Colossus, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. 1. The Number of the Beast, 1982. Iron Maiden's definitive album established the standard by which all of their later efforts are still measured. Between the controversial title track's occult fascinations, the chart-climbing immediacy of Run to the Hills, the patented gallop of Hallowed Be Thy Name, and deeper cuts that would qualify as all-time classics for anyone else, there's simply no topping Number of the Beast.
Wow.
Wow. What do people think of that?
What wasn't my baby.
Are you sure?
I took it from an article.
Okay.
Yeah.
From an ask. I think, people, as long as those three are in the top three, as long as you've got Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Number of the Beast, I think they're probably, to most people, one of their favourite albums. So,
Number of the Beast was definitely my favourite album.
Yeah.
Ever.
I think ever in the history of rock.
Man.
What we should talk about briefly, I know we're time-wise, we've got about 5 minutes, but live albums with Maiden, that's another huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because Live After Death, that was the first live album.
Yeah.
But they had an EP made in Japan with Paul
Actually,
Di'Anno,
yeah,
which is really hard to get hold of now. I tried to get it. But then Live After Death came out, and that was huge. Sounded brilliant, but again, mixed by Martin Bird.
yeah, amazing.
And then since then, they've had some right dog of live albums, haven't they? Some of them have been great. I was saying to Mike that the Final Frontier tour, there's an album from that, a live album, and actually the quality of the sound is brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend that for anyone who's looking to get a decent live album. They did the Legacy of the Beast, but they only released that because COVID hit, so it was like a stopgap. And but again, you got Steve Harris too involved in it.
I agree with that. I think Live After Death was my favourite live album.
Yeah, might be my favourite live album ever.
And
great video with it from Long Beach Arena, wasn't it? Over 2 nights.
What's his name?
Played a couple of minutes with Nico Mcbrain at a small bar in Eastern. That it stopped into after a tour layover in the area. That was a lot of fun. Just 2 or 3 minutes of a blues progress. That's brilliant.
Mate,
Nico is bonkers, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's
he is.
just hilarious.
he's a lovely man. I met him at NAM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he was a lovely guy.
There's not many metal drummers or rock drummers who will go on the City and Sweep show, is there? Got to give it to him.
Thanks for his time. Really appreciate it, mate. Mike, good to see you there. I am fine, my friend. I am my voice.
His spirits are good, guys, and he's
Yeah.
physically he's great.
Let me give you one of these. Appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
I'm just here for the brilliant company. I really have barely ever listened to Iron Maiden much. Never got into them personally.
Well, that is lovely you're here, my friend.
Absolutely.
That really means a lot to me. Thank you. Really appreciate it. We got one more beer.
So that's a Smith Kotzen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did really well with the Smith Kotzen project.
Amazing.
Some great tracks on it.
Yeah. Really good. So, should we play that?
Let's play a bit of Smith Kotzen.
Here we go.
Iron Maiden's Adrian Smith and the Winery Dogs' Richie Kotzen on how their Smith Kotzen album was made. On paper, the two guitarists are markedly different. Best known mainly for 2 spells cranking out metal riffs with Iron Maiden, Londoner Adrian Smith has also played with ASAP, Adrian Smith and Project, Psycho Motel and, more recently, Primal Rock Rebellion. Born on the other side of the Atlantic and 13 years younger, Richie Kotzen started out as a shredder, then hooked up with Poison and Mr. Big. Now he alternates between a solo career and as a member of the Winery Dogs. And yet there are commonalities. Both are gifted songwriters and musicians, quietly spoken, residents of California, and share a passion for bluesy, funk-fueled hard rock. And they were both on the line when we picked up the phone and made a conference call. How and when did the two of you first become acquainted? Adrian Smith, we first met 8 or 9 years ago but became friends over the last couple. I've a house in LA, and during the time spent there we often have jam sessions. Richie came over one night and we ripped it up on some Stevie Ray, Vaughan, and Bad Company, and had so much fun we decided to try writing some songs. When did it become obvious that you should make a record? Richie Kotzen, it was a slow thing, and we threw the idea around for a while. The first song was Running, and from there hit upon the idea of trading vocals. It all came together organically. There was no deadline, and maybe that's why the record has a real honesty. Did one of you write the music and the other the lyrics? Smith, no. We both play guitar. And although Rich is more experienced at singing than me, to say the least, he's got way more range. I've sung all my life. Richie handles a few of the choruses because they are quite high, and I tended to do the verses. In fact, our voices are quite similar tonally. Gudmundsson, listening back, there are times when I don't know who's doing what, is that me, or Adrian? But it's cool that we are so connected. How did you decide who plays the solos? Smith, we divvied those up the same way, it was just a case of whatever felt right. Richie, in the press release biography you say that you were haunted by the Lost Love themed song I Wanna Stay. Gudmundsson, it was nuts. I got that one stuck in my head and it kept coming back like a recurring dream, but in the end it turned out really nice. Who played the long, intoxicating solo at the end of that track? Smith, that was me. Did you enjoy the freedom of being able to stretch out? Smith, yeah. And it can be a very dangerous thing. Put two guitarists together in a studio, laughter from both. The album contains a lot of fireworks, but we tried to keep the solos relevant to the songs. You also share the bass parts, with Tal Burgman, Billy Idol, LL Cool J, Rod Stewart, Chaka Khan, and Richie playing drums on all but one of the tracks. Smith, we are the rhythm section on most of the album. We laid down the drums as a guide in most places, but they were so good that we kept them. Gudmundsson, the drums provide the foundation of the house. And I have a long history with Tal Burgman. It's not like we were opposed to involving others, but you can get into a meditation-style method of recording. Iron Maiden's Nico Mcbrain contributes the pounding yet funky drums on the track Solar Fire. Smith, Nick had played with the Pat Travers Band, among other bands, so it was perfect for him. Gudmundsson, Nico really fired things up. The album was recorded on the Turks and Caicos Islands in the Bahamas. It's a tough old life, eh? Smith, well, someone's got to do it, and we were happy to step up. I'd been there before, of course. When Iron Maiden recorded 3 albums there during the 1980s. Smith, yeah. Back then there were lots of distractions. 5 guys on a desert island. We had our own seats at some of the clubs. It was different this time, there were no shenanigans. Amazingly, you somehow kept it all secret. Smith, Richie and I are pretty laid back, we're not all over town telling our secrets. It wasn't difficult. If it was put to you that the music has a vibe of the classic Hughes Thrall album from 1982 about it, would you agree with that? Smith, I take that as a massive compliment. I love that album. It's such a shame that they never went on and made another record. Gudmundsson, I'm ashamed to admit I've never heard that album. But Glenn Hughes was a big influence on my vocal style. Presumably your bandmates in Maiden and the Winery Dogs have now heard the album? Gudmundsson, Billy Sheehan, bassist, sent a nice text after the video for the first single, Taking My Chances. Smith, it's the same with me. I had a couple of congratulatory emails from some of the Maiden guys who like Taking My Chances, but nobody's heard the whole album. Will Gudmundsson be a one-off? Smith, we're already thinking about song ideas for a follow-up, and of course we'd like to play some live shows, though whether or not that will happen is uncertain. What does 2021 hold for you, Richie? Gudmundsson, who the hell knows? I had a year of shows booked on 4 continents for my album 50 for 50, and bam. I'm just thankful that everyone I love is in one piece. Adrian, Maiden have prepared some material for the follow-up album to the Book of Souls. Smith, we've shows booked this summer, but whether or not they'll happen nobody knows. Will you wait until lockdown ends to push on with a new Maiden album? Smith, playing live will happen first. We can't wait for the green light.
That's great. I want to...
Yeah.
there we go. That's a good video. I want to check out. I listened to it very quickly. Had a little run through of it.
It's a great album. I made 2 now.
Yeah, because they've got an EP out with some bits, haven't they?
April, thank you so much. Please write some of your favourite beverages or shenanigans.
Before you give him a thank you, April, because you come round here, you help a friend, and all he offers you is water. So this can pay for what we have next time. He did offer me more than water, but
But there we go. Well, we are 104, and I always make sure that we only do an hour. So I'm going to love you and say to you, you guys take good care.